Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. The footage that you're now seeing is from a little bit of a hike that I went on. There's some really nice walks just outside of Brisbane. It's like a little taste of the outback when you're 20 kilometers away from the city. Now, after I finish this video, I'm going to do some more face cam videos. I want to do some more kind of me speaking to the camera type content, because I think you get a little bit more out of it than just voiceovers. Voiceovers are a little bit impersonal. You know, I wanted to keep the original name of the first channel I had, Coach Blackbill, but given what's been going on, the climate of what's happening, I just had to cut my losses and let go of the name. Now, the Black Robin seems a little bit cheesy, but it was actually the name of my favorite bird when I was a kid. For 70 years, the Black Robin was believed to be extinct, just like all the others, until at some point in the 1970s, they found 5 of them on a tiny atoll off the coast of New Zealand. And what's more, 4 of them were male, only one was a female, called Old Blue, and she was in the twilight of her mating years. But somehow, against all the odds, they managed to get this old female black robin to breed with one of the remaining males. And then her offspring, they managed to carefully select the offspring, the one female offspring of that bird, to breed with one of the other remaining males. And through a very careful conservation effort, they were able to get a few dozen black robins, and then, after a couple of decades, several hundreds, and now, despite being still very rare, they're now flourishing off the coast of New Zealand. So, you know, that really inspired me when I was a kid. So it was the first name that popped into my mind when I created the channel. But anyway, so what I want to do in today's video is I want to go over a topic I touched on several years ago, but now that I've got a bit of editing experience under my belt, I can do it more succinctly. So, tell me if the following scenario sounds at least somewhat, vaguely familiar. You have a job, like a 9-to-5 job or whatever it is, right? And you're not like super depressed or anything, but you go to this wage slave job every day, and you have like a couple of downtime hours when you're not at work, but you're either too exhausted or just don't physically have the time to really do anything with those hours that really makes you happy. In fact, if anything, you use those 2 hours to decompress from the day that you've just had. You might go to the gym, or you might zone out to some YouTube or TikTok or, some other type of cope that's really just to distract you from the day itself. And then you get up the next day and do the whole thing again and again and again until you have a couple of days off where you just kind of catch up on stuff you need to do or wither the day away. Now, I want to show you a little graph, okay? This is a graph of the happiness levels within the United States, right? Now, I won't go into detail about what defines happiness level, but this is the overall kind of how happy are you on a day-to-day basis kind of analysis that they did. And you'll notice that the more income someone has, the happier they self-report as being. Now then, we all know that there's people out there that have all the money, all the women, they have access to all of the coolest places. They have everything, basically. Every metric of what would make you, not so much make you happy, but all of the things that you could want in the world. So yeah, there are people out there, the Kurt Cobains, that, you give them all the money and fame and everything they could ever want, and they'll still be unhappy because something inside of them is broken, which can never be fixed. Nothing can fill that void. But, I do think that these people are a very small minority. You see, most guys, and I'm talking about guys specifically, women are similar but maybe fractionally different. I'm just keeping this metaphor to men only. Most men, if you were to give them unlimited amounts of the 3 main metrics that men are kind of, their sense of self-worth is defined by, what men themselves often think will make them happy, Men who don't have these 3 things often think, well, if I just had more money, if I just had more women, if I just had more status, I would be happy. If every man on the planet suddenly had unlimited amounts of these three things, I think that the Kurt Cobains of the world, the people who can never be happy, would be a tiny minority. If you were to give the average guy on the street unlimited amounts of, money and fame and everything, I think they would fall into one of two categories. I think the first category would be Leonardo DiCaprio's, the people who have never had a bad day in their lives. They have all the money and fame and women, and they love it. I guarantee if you sat Leonardo DiCaprio down with a bunch of psychologists and you asked all the questions that measure happiness, I bet Leo would be floating. He has literally every metric. He has pretty much more of it than any other guy on the planet, basically, except good looks, but he doesn't really need them anymore. And he used to have them anyway. But you see, Leonardo DiCaprio is kind of an extrovert. He'd probably be a fairly outgoing dude even if he wasn't famous. But truth be told, I think most guys would probably be more like Keanu Reeves if they suddenly, out of nowhere, were given everything. I think most guys would be discreetly happy. I think most guys, at least after the first year, would be more like Keanu Reeves. Maybe the first year they would be like Leonardo DiCaprio or, Justin Bieber. They'd be partying it up with the models and everything. But once they kind of got it out of their system, I think that they would retire to their mansions to, go play video games, something like that. The point that I'm making is that I'm not saying that money by itself makes you happy. Absolutely not. I'm the least materialistic guy that you could possibly get, No, the point that I'm making is that once you get the money situation sorted out, then you can travel, then you can do more of the things that you actually want if you have the ability to get the things that you want. If you're like a 6'4" gigachad and you have a trust fund, now you have a blank canvas to go out and get the things that you want. That's the point that I'm making. So then, let's talk a little bit about the 3 levels of happiness. Now, this is a little bit like the Bible, Treat this as a metaphor. Treat this as an example. Don't take this as literal. I'm just giving you 3 examples of the human happiness scale, as I call it. I actually read the Bible recently, cover to cover. It took me, 2.5 months or whatever. I actually really enjoyed a lot of the Old Testament, but that's beside the point. So treat what I'm saying as an example, okay? Don't take it too literally. So the first example of the human happiness scale is what I would call level 1, which is the most unhappy, which is 90% of the planet, by the way. This is most people in India right now. And the truth is, and this is kind of a black pill, but most people will never leave level 1. Most people who are stuck on level 1 will never escape it. Some people actually aspire to get to this level, people that are like starving. I'm not going to cover level quote-unquote 0, but you get the idea. In fact, sorry to ramble and get off topic, but man, if you ever want to feel a little bit better about your current situation, go watch a documentary on the Irish potato famine, or go watch a documentary on the siege of Leningrad and the food situations that they had. And man, you'll feel good about the fact that you can go to the supermarket and buy a bag of potatoes and just boil them and just eat them without seasoning. The ability to do that will make you feel blessed in a sense. So most of the people watching this probably fall into level 1, and many of you may never escape level 1. But once you have this knowledge, right, you can look at level 2 and think maybe is there a way to ascend to the next level? And again, I'm giving you examples here. Not everybody fits neatly into one of these 3 categories. I'm just kind of giving you a rough idea. But the next level up would be your financial needs are taken care of. You have some kind of passive income, like a government pension that they can't remove. Or maybe you're like one of those million sub YouTube channels that play games, right? Let's say you're kind of a recluse and you played games, and all of a sudden you started doing it, and you posted it to YouTube, and you grew a channel, and after 5 years you're now making, $80,000 a year off donations for just playing games, right? Now, your needs are taken care of. You get to sit at home all day and just chill or do whatever. But, you're still a rotter. If you're in this situation, it's better than being a level 1 situation where you're working at some wage slave job where you look forward all week just to be able to do this on Saturday. This is better than level 1. But, you're still kind of a rotter. You're still just sitting around. Something's missing. And that brings me to the next level, which is level 3, which is life-affirming experiences, Let's say you have $100,000 a year passive income that you never even have to look at, which again is not the goal. That just gives you the blank canvas to do what actually makes you better than the level below. Now, there's different types of people out there. There's the types of people, they just want to find this one person, right, that they can cuddle up to, that they're deeply attracted to, who's deeply attracted to them. And better still, to have the resources to do it in a nice place, to have the resources and the free time to be able to do it on a tropical island somewhere with absolutely no obligations, nothing. And then there are other people that are a little bit more degenerate who would rather just travel the world and just, hook up with girls along the way or something. Either way, it's fine. The point is, all of your financial needs are taken care of, and you're having life-affirming experiences. And this is what separates level 3 from level 2, is you're not just existing, sitting around in your mansion playing video games. You're actually having real experiences that, well, make life worth living, to put it frankly. And I don't know this for a fact, but I would speculate that this is why people who make $500,000 a year report higher happiness levels. Now, they did multiple studies. Sometimes they just asked people if they're happy with their income, and they did other studies where they just measured overall happiness, and that correlation was definitely there. And the people who showed overall higher happiness levels probably feel that way because they had better access to life-affirming experiences, They got to travel with their significant other or go meet a significant other. They had the ability to do stuff. They weren't tied to their job in sales. You know what I mean? Like, they actually had that freedom. Because again, that's the point of having money. It's not to go out and buy expensive clothes. It's to have a blank canvas to be able to draw your life on. And you might say, well, if some people are never going to escape their situation, all of the people, not all of them, but a large portion of the people, especially living in the undeveloped world, are never going to escape their situation, what's the point in even talking about it? The point is because I see a lot people who could ascend to a higher level and they don't. They don't take any opportunities. They just kind of rot. And that's the biggest sin, people who have the opportunity to ascend, but they don't. Or worse still, they see other people who do try and ascend to a higher level, and they put them down. Oh, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. I've seen this quite a lot. And that's why I feel like it's important to define these things and talk about how important it is to always have your eye on ascending to the next level. But anyway, I digress. I think you get the point of today's video. So thanks for tuning in to the very first episode, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.